Good morning, Kuhner country. Okay, my friends, yesterday, President Trump, in a very dramatic announcement, and then this was followed up by the release of the unclassified video footage, announced to the United States and to the world that the U.S. Coast Guard, backed by the U.S. Navy, Department of Homeland Security, the FBI, seized a massive, large Venezuelan oil tanker right off the coast of Venezuela. And apparently, what we're getting information now, it's been coming out in little driblets, but there was a seizure warrant issued by a judge several weeks ago. So I guess they knew this tanker was going to be on the move, to seize this tanker, which is exactly what they did. And the reason why they decided to seize the tanker is because this is a tanker that has been under U.S. sanctions for many, many years. It is a tanker that has been shipping illicit either Venezuelan oil or Iranian oil. Sometimes it flies under the Venezuelan flag, other times it flies under the Iranian flag, but it is a Venezuelan tanker, and it has been known to ship oil, sanctioned oil, illegal oil from Venezuela, usually to communist China or to Hezbollah and terrorist organizations based in Iran. And so this is a tanker that they have wanted to get for a very, very long time. The troops executed almost a perfect maneuver. As you know, tensions are running very high with the Venezuelan government. The authoritarian strongman Maduro has put his country now on a war footing. He is anticipating a potential U.S. invasion or even regime change. Missile strikes, ground strikes, land strikes, and so tensions now are almost at a boiling point. Maduro, in the wake of the seizure of the oil tanker, has said this is piracy on the high seas. And he now vows that he will, quote unquote, break the teeth of the North American empire, meaning the United States, and that there will be revenge for what President Trump did. Here, the Democrats are going ballistic. The media is going ballistic, saying that Donald Trump is now the akin to Jack Sparrow. If you've seen Pirates of the Caribbean, starring Johnny Depp, they're now claiming that he is a modern-day pirate. He is someone now who is violating the law, flouting the law, going on the high seas, seizing boats, murdering people like a modern-day Blackbeard. Or the meme they keep using is, on social media in particular, is the Johnny Depp character Jack Sparrow in that movie franchise Pirates of the Caribbean. And so he's now being accused of piracy, of lawlessness, of gangsterism, and of violating international law. President Trump yesterday told the stunned press corps, we have now seized one of the biggest oil tankers ever off the coast of Venezuela. Roll cut one, a mic.
It's been an interesting day from the standpoint of news. As you probably know, we've just seized a tanker on the coast of Venezuela, large tanker, very large. Largest one ever seized, actually. And other things are happening, so you'll be seeing that later, and you'll be talking about that later with some other people.
So, in other words, he's saying, look, they're going to give you all the reasons, the legal, the legal foundation for why this operation was carried out, and the national security geopolitical necessity of doing this. Clearly, it's to disrupt now both Venezuela and Iran from being able to, on the black market, illicitly ship oil, which is sanctioned, it's illegal, to apparently China. And there are rogue energy brokers in Asia that they sell, I guess, at below market price. They buy and then they resell at a higher price. Anyway, apparently that's where this oil was apparently going. It was going to go apparently from Venezuela, carrying Venezuelan oil, to someplace in China or around China, to some of these rogue energy brokers who were going to buy at, I'm just making up a figure, you buy for 45 or 50 bucks a barrel, and you sell it for, like, say, 70 or 75 bucks a barrel, or whatever it's going now on the world market. So Trump said, no, we're putting the squeeze into Maduro. We had our sights set on this tanker for a while. It has been a sanctioned tanker carrying illegal oil. We saw our chance. We made our move. Listen now to the president going back and forth with the reporter, and the reporter's asking now, why would you do this? This is almost never done. And the implication is that this smacks of piracy. This is almost like the 18th century or the 17th century, where we're just seizing boats now. Roll cut 1A, a mic.
Mr. President, thank you. Can you explain a little more about this Venezuelan oil tanker and share a little more information?
Well, I'll let the people do it, but you see the result, and I guess they probably have released the pictures by now, or pretty soon. You'll discuss that with the appropriate people later on, but no, it was seized for a very good reason.
So what he's basically saying is, look, we'll give you all the reasons. I pretty much gave them to you. But his argument is, we're not going to be, suddenly we're not just going to start seizing boats off the high seas. This was a large tanker that carried a ton of oil. It had been doing this for years. This was illegal oil, sanctioned oil, both from Venezuela and Iran. There's a nexus now between those two regimes and has been for a while. Hezbollah has been operating, there are cells of Hezbollah operating within Venezuela, and they're helping to facilitate this illegal oil that they're shipping, primarily, as I said, to either North Korea or China, across the high seas. And now Trump said enough. He got a judge to give him a seizure warrant, and his Navy and Coast Guard made their move. Listen now to President Trump, asked by a reporter, well, okay, what happens to the oil and what happens to the ship? And as President Trump said, well, we're definitely keeping the oil, that's for sure. We're seizing all of that oil. The ship, we shall see. Roll cut 1B, a mic.
What happens to the oil from that ship?
Well, we keep it, I guess.
Where does it go? What port does it go to?
Well, you have to follow the tanker. You're a good newsman. Just follow the tanker.
Do you know where it's going?
Follow it. Get a helicopter and follow the tanker.
Is it true it's going to?
But I assume we're gonna keep the oil.
So we're keeping the oil. So look, my position on this is very clear. To me, it's about time we start to enforce our sanctions against the Maduro regime. Trump is now clearly putting the screws into Maduro. Look, if they can't sell their oil on the international black market, if their tankers are going to get seized, then there's going to be no money left to finance that regime. Trump now is, he's just tightening the screws and tightening the screws and tightening the screws. And so, do I think this is the action of a pirate? Absolutely not. I think this shows that he is serious about reasserting American dominance in the Western Hemisphere and about letting Maduro now know that we are going to put maximum pressure on his regime for him to step down and stop his narco-terrorism that has been killing tens and tens of thousands of Americans here in the United States. And so you run sanctioned oil, you run illegal oil, you're part of an illicit, illegal shipping network. Those days of Joe Biden are over. We're going to enforce these sanctions, and we're going to target these oil tankers. Now, if the oil revenue dries up, then Maduro's finished. I mean, he's really finished. Yes, he's got drug money coming in, but you can't finance a country on drug money. You can line your own pockets, as he has, and that of his cronies. Yes, with their villas and their homes and their yachts and their boats and their cars. But you can't pay the salaries of the military, the police. So they are squeezing him and squeezing him and squeezing him. Now, the Democrats are up in arms, saying that this was illegal, this is the act of a bully, that Trump is now a modern-day pirate. 620 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer, 617-266-6868. Mike is having a little bit of fun with the story and looking at all the memes on social media. The left is losing their mind. I mean, I'm just, it's like whatever this guy does, they can't stand. So anyway, let me ask all of you, was Trump, in your view, right to seize this Venezuelan oil tanker off the coast of Venezuela? Or do you think he was behaving like a modern-day pirate? I want to hear from you. 617-266-6868 is the number. We're going to load up the phone lines. Once it's loaded up, we're going to go right to you, the great audience of Kuhner Country. Okay, to me, here's what, if in an ideal, perfect world for the Kuhner man, you grab the tanker, we've got the tanker, take out all the oil. Once the oil's taken out, no problem. Take about 10,000 illegal Somalis, take them from Minnesota, put them on the tanker. If you want, go to get Ilhan Omar, since she's a big fan of Somali pirates, and make her captain the ship and take it all the way to Somalia. And frankly, as a gesture of our goodwill, you can even keep the freaking boat. How's that? Okay? So that's what I would do. Take the oil, clean out the tanker, and then put in 10,000 Somalis with Elon. Some people did something, Omar, and make her honorary captain of the boat, and you can take it all the way to Somalia. There you go. Solve two problems at once. As they say, kill two birds with one stone. Of course, that's not going to happen, obviously. But we're going to take the oil, and we'll see what happens with the tanker itself. My question to you, are you supportive of this decision or not supportive of this decision? Already now, audience is divided. I'm getting some texts. Here's just one of them, 617. You can text the Kuhner Man, 70470, 70470. This is from 617. Jeff, I'm sorry to say it, but on this one, the Democrats and the left are right. This does smack of piracy on the high seas. So now the United States is in the business of boarding and seizing boats with some kind of an order from our justice system. What if the Russians and the Chinese start doing the same thing? You're going to see boats and tankers seized all over the world. This is a horrible precedent. I didn't vote for this, Jeff. I voted to put corrupt Democrats in prison. I voted to get justice for COVID-19. I voted to release the Epstein files. I voted to put deep state criminals like John Brennan and Fauci in jail to drain the swamp. This is not draining the swamp. This is taking us closer to an unnecessary, needless war with Venezuela. So some of you are opposing this on multiple grounds. You think, A, it's distracting from his domestic agenda. He's focusing again too much on foreign affairs. And others believe that we are sleepwalking, slowly slow walking towards an eventual showdown and a regime change war with Maduro and Venezuela, almost step by step by step. We're deploying a massive amount of troops now in the Caribbean. We've got 11 warships. We are now tightening our grip around Venezuela. We already have CIA operatives inside Venezuela. We are clearing the skies, the airspace above Venezuela. And now, the next step, we are seizing their oil tankers. It does look like we're heading towards some kind of a military showdown. Either crushing land and missile and airstrikes or a full-blown invasion. And Trump says it's coming. A decisive military action, he says, is coming, and it's coming soon. 617-266-6868. Now, what threw people off yesterday, on top of the announcement of the seizure of this Venezuelan oil tanker. By the way, its name is Skipper. Skipper, that's the name of the boat. And they've wanted Skipper now for many years. Skipper has been running Iranian oil illegally. It's been shipping Venezuelan oil illegally to black markets and black marketeers all across the world, primarily in Asia, but all across the world, including, by the way, to terrorist organizations like Hezbollah. Mike, how much time left? Okay. Trump then talked about Colombia, which, as you know, neighbors Venezuela. It is also led by an anti-American, Trump-hating, Marxist strongman like Maduro. Okay, he is a hardcore socialist and a hardcore anti-American. Colombia is producing so much of the cocaine that the narco-terrorists are trying to ship and send into the United States. And Trump now has put Colombia and its Marxist president on notice. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, to just get a taste of how the anti-Trump fake news media is blowing up this tanker seizure as one of the great crimes of the century. I'm not kidding. Listen now to Rachel Madcow on BS Now, saying this is the act of a dictator, of a modern-day pirate, out of control. Roll cut 10, a mic.
It's so many things going on that feels over the legal line and feels like it's setting incredibly dangerous precedents. As you look at the totality of it, I mean, what concerns you most about what you're seeing and really where this goes? Because this is a very slippery slope. I think they feel justified to seize more oil tankers. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's basically three things going on here. I think one is that Trump wants to demonstrate that he is unconstrained by law, politics, or public opinion. Like, he wants to. The reason there's no king's protests against Trump is not just because he calls himself a king and, looks the part, but because he is trying to create an illegal or sort of non-legal regime around himself in which he is unconstrained by any of the things that legally constrain an American president. So that's dangerous. That's part of what this is. The other thing that's really bad about this is it looks like we might get a war. And it really looks like a regime change war to try to take their oil.
Well, I thought now you guys were all for war. Like, I'm sorry, I keep losing the plot here with you. I mean, you love the war in Ukraine. I mean, it's just, you guys are, literally, Madcow went to Dick Cheney's funeral. Rachel Madcow literally went to she was invited by the Cheney family. And remember, Cheney never apologized for the war in Iraq. In fact, it was dying day. He said he was proud of the war in Iraq. So he used to be the boogeyman of the left, if you remember going back 20 years ago. Him and then George W. Bush, they were the big villains of the left for the Iraq war. And in fact, Madcow made her career attacking Dick Cheney and Bush for the Iraq war. But she ends up going to the funeral of Dick Cheney invited by the daughter Liz Cheney. And she praised him as a great statesman. Why? Because he hates Trump. Because Dick Cheney was against Trump. And by the way, loves the war in Ukraine. Can't get enough of the war in Ukraine. So which is it now? You like war? You don't like war? It just, it depends. Really, it depends, I get it. If Trump does it, you're against it. If Trump's, if Trump doesn't do it, then you're for it. Oh, I get it. Okay, I get it now. Now, this is from 603, and I think 603 makes a very good point. Jeff, my impression of the mainstream media's narrative of the very same event. First, the Trump administration, and then under a Democrat regime. So, this is now Trump. In what critics are calling an act of absolute piracy, Donald Trump ordered the illegal seizure of a tanker ship belonging to another sovereign country. This is yet another example of an administration out of control and endangering America's status in the world. Now, this is the media's reaction, their narrative, if this was a Democrat who did the very same thing. Today, in a show of strength, the Biden administration ordered the military seizure of an oil tanker belonging to Venezuela's rogue Maduro regime. Biden's latest actions to combat this rogue regime are being applauded on the international stage, showing that tyrannical strongmen like Maduro, that there is a new sheriff in town, and that this criminal enterprise will not be tolerated. 603, you nailed it. You nailed it. See, that's why I call them prostitutes. Hey, in a cruder way, media whores. Prostitutes, media prostitutes. You just pay them their $25 million, and if Joe Biden did this, she'd be saying exactly what you just wrote. Great act of statesmanship, strength, leadership. We're showing these rogue regimes you don't mess with the USA. Oh, it's Trump? You want me to attack it? Okay. This is an act of absolute piracy. This is a chief executive who's out of control. This is the beginning of a dictatorship. Same thing. Two different presidents, two different scripts. You pay them enough, and they'll say it with the same sincerity and passion both times. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, let me ask you. Did Trump do the right thing? Yes? No? I will say this, just as a matter of historical fact. We have seized oil tankers before. We have seized boats before. This is nothing new. The notion now, this is a dangerous precedent. We've been doing this for literally since the beginning of our republic. Speaking of pirates, the Barbary pirates. Jefferson ordered us to go to war against Barbary pirates and to blow them out of the sea. So we have been seizing ships, boats, tankers. This has been going on since George Washington. So the notion that somehow this is illegal, it's never been done before. Oh my, could you have a memory longer than, 4 days? But that's what I mean. We're no longer dealing with the media. We're dealing with propaganda. Or as the Russians would say, disinformatio. Disinformation. Paul in Saugus, you're going to kick us off. Thanks for holding, Paul, and welcome.
How are you?
I'm very good. How are you, Paul?
Very good, my old friend. I'm retired now, an old chef and baker from Saugus, who you know.
Oh, Paul, hey. So you're completely retired now?
Yes, yes.
Good for you. Good for you, buddy. You
But
deserve
I
it.
just want to say that people are not looking at the bigger picture. This is a proxy war with China. He's cutting the money off. That's why the Democrats are screaming, because they're not getting the money that they were getting from China. He's cutting the drug trade off, which the drugs are being supplied from China. All of this, they're not looking at it. He's playing 3D chess. He's attacking everything. He's getting rid of the globalists when he goes to the Middle East. He doesn't include the Europeans when he sits down at the peace table. None of it. He's getting rid of all of it, and he's going after China right now. But he's doing it through Maduro.
Paul, I think that's an absolutely brilliant piece of analysis. I agree with you. I think he's trying to drive China out of our hemisphere, out of our backyard. And the other thing, Paul, you may disagree with me on this, but I think what he's also doing, look at the psychological pressure he's putting on the Maduro regime, the military pressure by having all our troops now slowly build up, the warships, now this economic pressure by, blowing up all these drugs and these drug boats coming out of Venezuela, now seizing this illegal and illicit oil tanker. It's as if he wants to force regime change without actually committing troops to do it. In other words, put so much pressure on Maduro that Maduro just he just pops. He just breaks and says, okay, look, I don't want to get killed. I don't want my whole family to get wiped out. Let me leave. Let me just negotiate a graceful exit. So it's like Trump is just putting more pressure and more pressure and more leverage and more leverage until eventually Maduro says, you know what? I'm going to cry uncle. You win. So I think that's also part of what he's doing. If Maduro can't get his oil out, his goose is cooked. So I think you're right, Paul. I think it's a double strategy. One, push China out of the Western Hemisphere and push China's influence out. And two, squeeze Maduro so hard that you enact regime change. 617-266-6868 is the number. You can also text the Kuhner Man, 70470, 70470. Okay, let me ask all of you. It is the Kuhner Country poll question of the day, sponsored by Mario's. Mario's quality roofing, siding, and windows. In seizing the Venezuelan oil tanker, is President Trump being a world leader or a pirate? A world leader. B, as many Democrats and the media are attacking him. B, a pirate. To me, he's clearly being a world leader. I mean, he's just doing things that, I don't know, other presidents didn't have the guts to do, but let that go. So, A, is he a world leader by seizing this massive Venezuelan oil tanker? Skipper, forgive me, that's the name of the boat, Skipper. Or B, he's being a pirate. You can vote on our webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner, wrko.com/Kuhner, KUHN is in national ER. You can also vote via X. My handle there, all one word, and yes, I was very active on X last night. My handle, at the Kuhner Report, at the Kuhner Report, KUHNER. Okay, Lou in Rhode Island. Thanks for holding, Lou, and welcome.
Yeah, how you doing, Jeff? First of all, let me say, how come Rachel Maddow never said that it's over the legal line to allow 20 million illegals into this country unvetted? How come she never said that was over the legal line, right? I mean, let's get it straight about these Democrats. These Democrats, and we noticed the pattern lately. You notice with the Somalians, you're noticing that with them with Kilmar Garcia and a whole number of these other illegals. And now I think in Maine, they're trying to bring in more and more illegals into Maine, that this pattern of defending criminality over the needs and the safety of the American public. And I notice that pattern with Democrats all over the place now. And I think it's pretty clear. Maybe they're getting support from these people. Who the heck knows? But there is a big Democrat wave of supporting criminals and criminality. I noticed in Illinois lately they let out over 1,700 illegal criminals out of their prisons. I mean, so we have that pattern going on with the Democrats, and them trying to say Trump is a criminal, but their support of criminals they put off to the side there. But that's not my biggest question. But you know what? They never side with Maria Corina Machado. How come she is like the perfect person for a Democrat to want to side with? A woman leader going after an opposition, who's the opposition to Maduro, who has rigged 2 elections already. I mean, at least 2, maybe more. But the world's institutions have gone after Maduro for the election activity and him even losing but staying in office. They've also, it's strange that it's the Nobel Committee that gave Machado the Nobel Prize, which is it's a pretty liberal organization, right? Nobel. And they still recognized her contribution over there, but they never side with her. They never side with what's going on in Venezuela and their illegal activity. I think Paul was right before. They do. It is Chinese behind a lot of this stuff because they've been trying to get into our hemisphere for years and years and years, like they tried to get to Africa, and they're going to lose. They're losing a market there with not letting fentanyl come in and destroy the country. There's 2 sides to this. There's the one side of how illegal Maduro is as a leader there, and how he actually needs to be overthrown, and that Venezuela was once a wonderful, prosperous state, and now it's been turned into just like a criminal hellhole, and that also you have to go back a little bit further too. When Biden put in all our fossil fuel restrictions, he went out and just bought oil from Venezuela. He was begging Venezuela for oil. I mean, this is the 2 tracks. One, the Democrats. Why do they side with criminality? And number 2, why can't anybody recognize that this Maduro state is illegitimate, illegal, and it's just trying to destabilize America?
You're dead on. And by the way, Lou, you're on fire. And look, he's deeply unpopular at home. The Venezuelans, can't stand him. And people often say, well, why don't they overthrow him? Well, the thing is, when you actually, with media outlets, there's a few independent media outlets left. Or if you send a journalist, say, from, I don't know, the Wall Street Journal or, whatever, from, Fox News or whatever, Newsmax, they send a correspondent down to Caracas. And they go, well, when you interview people, they are so hungry and they are so desperate for the basic necessities of life. They don't even think about overthrowing the regime because literally they're living hand to mouth. It is a fight for survival every single day. And you see people going through garbage cans, garbage bags, dumpsters, looking for any scrap of food that they can get. It is a horrible situation. What he and his predecessor Chavez, again, 2 communists, what they did to Venezuela is a tragedy. And what people, I don't think, quite grasp, Venezuela has the biggest reserves of oil in the entire world. Even more than the United States, even more than Saudi Arabia. Now, it's a bit, how do I say, dirty oil in the sense that you have to refine it several times. The benefit that we have, and the Saudis in particular, is that their oil is much lighter. You just almost suck it out of the ground and it's practically ready to go. It needs its light refinement. Venezuelan oil, there's a ton of it, but you've got to refine it and refine it and refine it. And now it's fine. It just costs a little bit more, but eventually it gets very clean and very refined oil. So Venezuela is sitting on an ocean of oil. And yet, so all you got to do is just get the oil out of the ground. And that's it. That'll power your entire economy. And it could be a first world country. No. Under Chavez and now Maduro, they have run the country into the ground. And instead of making money off of oil, they do a little bit illicit shipping it to, China, as you mentioned, and on the black market, most of their money is in drugs. Maduro sits atop one of the wealthiest, most powerful drug cartels in the entire Western Hemisphere. Him and his inner circle and his generals. So they're part of this regime that is sending fentanyl into our country, although that's primarily Mexico, that's sending cocaine into our country, but most of that is made in Colombia. But they're sending drugs. And look, this is what I don't get. The Democrats are siding with narco-terrorists, with drug dealers who are poisoning and killing our children. 100,000 every year dead because of the narcotics that are flowing into our country. So they're siding with drug dealers and drug cartels and terrorists over our kids and children, just like they side with criminal illegals against innocent American women, men, and children. You can't make this up. And you're right, Maduro has stolen the last two elections. This has been internationally recognized. It is a pariah regime. He is completely illegitimate. The people can't stand him. He does not have any democratic legitimacy whatsoever. And just to throw this in, Machado is not just the genuine democratic opposition leader. She didn't just win the Nobel Peace Prize. And the Nobel Committee is very liberal. She's a liberal. She's a feminist. She's pro-LGBTQ. Not that I care. I'm just explaining to you. So, by the way, she says the first thing she's going to do when she gets the power is pass gay marriage in Venezuela. Venezuela, under Maduro, has banned gay marriage. Abortion, by the way, is illegal under Maduro. So he's trying to appeal to some of the rural areas by being more socially conservative. But my point being, she's pro-feminist, pro-choice, pro-LGBTQ. Her hero is Hillary Clinton. Now, she admires Trump deeply because Trump is really going after Maduro. So she's like, well, yeah, he's being very brave for going after Maduro. But when asked, who would you like to emulate? It's Hillary Clinton. She goes, I want to be a feminist. I want to defend abortion. I want to defend gay marriage. I want to defend LGBTQ. So you would think a Rachel Madcow, if she had any courage of her convictions or any sincerity in what she says, she would be saying, well, you've got a authoritarian dictator, an illegitimate strongman who has stolen multiple elections, and you've got this Democratic opposition leader who's a pro-gay, pro-lesbian, pro-LGBTQ, pro-choice feminist leader. Duh. No. If Trump is against Maduro, she's for Maduro. They're so blinded in their hatred for Trump that I don't even think do you realize, to the mad cows of the world, do you realize how absurd you look? But that's what TDS has done to them. And notice how they talk. I can play the cut again. How quick. They're like rabid. They're just like rabbit. They're almost like barking. They hate him. They just hate him. Everything he does is bad. 617-266-6868. Thank you for that call, Lou, as always. Andy in Milford. Thanks for holding, Andy, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. Well, Jeff, if President Trump's a pirate, then Rachel Maddow...
Hey, Andy. Touche, my friend.
President Trump is their Moby Dick. I mean, no matter how many times they stick in that harpoon, they can't kill him.
Andy, let me ask you this. What do you say to the argument, and that's their argument, that this is piracy, that we're now seizing oil tankers, we're doing it off the coast of Venezuela, that if other countries start doing this, like China or Russia, this is going to destroy international trade, it's going to lead to gangsterism on the high seas, that he is behaving again like a dictator, and that he is getting us closer and closer and closer to a war with Maduro, and that this man is out of control, and that he is behaving in a dictatorial, authoritarian manner. He's now seizing oil tankers and their oil. And this is not what the American people want. What say you?
Well, the problem with that is, and you laid it out, Jeff, that this oil tanker, the skipper, has been a sanctioned vessel for quite some time. And the oil it's been running for quite some time, it's been sanctioned. And President Trump just has had the guts to actually act on and enforce what's already been sanctioned for quite some time. That's number one. Number two, this is taking place within our own hemisphere. So, I mean, it is within our national interest to choke Maduro economically. And this move does that.
Oh, you're right. I think there's no question. Andy, I think there's no question. Andy, let me ask you this, because I am getting some, not much, but I'm getting some, and these are Trump supporters, and they're saying, come on, Kuhner. You know, I mean, I wish they would call in, but they don't want to call in, which is fine. Some people are shy or reluctant or whatever, but they're texting me and they're emailing me, and they're saying, Jeff, this is not what I voted for. I voted for him, you know, again, it's almost like yesterday's show. I voted for him to focus on inflation, to deport illegal aliens. I voted on him to start locking people like Fauci up, to start putting these deep state criminals in prison. There hasn't been any serious arrests. We're still waiting. We wanted to, you know, blow the lid off of COVID-19, have people like Fauci go to jail. We wanted people like Brennan and Clapper and all of them to be held accountable for what they did on January 6th. The Biden regime, none of this is happening. None of this. Instead, again, it's like Trump is preoccupied with foreign affairs, foreign policy, almost saber rattling now with Maduro. And, you know, according to these MAGA supporters who listen to the show, they're saying, Jeff, I don't care about Venezuela. Blow the boats up, great, but whether Maduro stays or goes, that should be none of our business. What say you, Andy?
I say two things, Jeff. Number one, this is not just a country in the Middle East, and this is in our own hemisphere. So we're talking about communism getting a foothold within our own hemisphere. And what Trump is doing is he's cutting off the various things that's enabling it. The drugs, the narco-terrorism, and, of course, the sanctioned oil. And so my message to them would be just be patient with this. Look at the bigger picture. On the other hand, Jeff, they are half right that President Trump does need to start going after the deep state criminals in this country. Like in Minnesota, the Somalis on the ground are getting arrested for all the welfare fraud that they've engaged in. okay, that's good, but these stupid politicians that enabled all that have also need to start getting arrested. And President Trump is going to have to really crack the whip with DOJ to make it happen. And if that means changes have to be made at the top, so be it.
Amen. No, I'm with you, Andy. I think you're right. I think, look, yes, it's great. These Somalis are being arrested. They should be arrested. But you're going after the little fish, which is fine. You have to go after the little fish. You have to. But I want the big fish. And they just seem to be, or at least Pam Bondi and others are afraid to go after the big fish. And the question after a while is you have to ask yourself why. And so what I said on X last night, I'm going to fully own. I fully believe in it. It's now been, 300 days that Pam Bondi has been in office? Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, FBI director, deputy FBI director, over 250 days in office. Not a single Biden criminal has been arrested. Not a single corrupt Biden official arrested. Not a single deep state criminal. I don't care if it's Brennan. I don't care if it's Clapper. I don't care if it's Fauci, has been arrested. I mean, I'm just stating the facts. We voted for you to drain the swamp. Drain the dang swamp. Like, this is not rocket science. And what I've concluded now from not just her actions, or rather inactions, but when I look at who she's tied to, who she's friends with, who she pals around with, who she's been politically connected to now for many years. She is very close to the Bush family, with Jeb Bush in particular. She was very close with John McCain. She is very close with Mitt Romney, and she is extremely close with Lindsey Graham. She's a rhino. She is part of the rhino globalist establishment. You're not going to get the arrests that you want and need under Pam Bondi. She's just not going to do it. And so I have come now to the conclusion that she's got to go. That there will be no justice, and there will be no serious prosecutions of high-profile corrupt Democrats or deep state criminals under Pam Bondi as Attorney General. She won't do it. She refuses to do it because ultimately that's not what the Bush family wants. That's not what McCain, his family wants. That's not what Romney or Lindsey Graham. They want the swamp to continue. And if you notice, she always goes after the small fish. Yes, she's very aggressive, but that's low-hanging fruit. When it comes to going after somebody that's, high up and will cause a real political repercussions and have real political blowback, she's meek as a church mouse. And it's the same for Kash Patel, and it's the same for Dan Bongino. Just my opinion, take it for what it's worth, but I've pretty much now come to this conclusion. If you want, give her another month, but I'm telling you, January, nothing's going to change. February, nothing is going to change. Because she doesn't want to make those arrests. Because ultimately, she's tied to the Bushes. 617-266-6868. Okay, it's all on the table. Obviously, we're going to continue to talk about what happened yesterday. It was very dramatic on the high seas. Clearly now, something you can tell. I don't want to say watershed. That's a bit too strong a word, but the escalation now in this tug of war, this back and forth between Trump and Maduro, I think has now reached the boiling point. He's now going after Venezuela's illicit oil trafficking. And that's going to financially break the back of the regime. Or I thought, as Andy said it very well, it's going to choke Maduro economically. So you could tell this is now, Trump is basically saying now I'm cutting off your economic lifeline. by seizing that oil tanker. And so clearly he's putting maximum leverage, maximum pressure on the Maduro regime. He wants Maduro to step down. He wants the legitimate democratic opposition leader, Machado, to take over in an interim government. And then they're going to call again full national elections, free and fair. Maduro will get wiped out. In fact, Maduro is going to have to go into exile for all the crimes that he's committed. So this is now where we are. And I'm going to continue to take calls whether Trump should have seized the oil tanker. Is it an act of piracy? I think it's not. I think we had every right to do it. But let that go. But the other point I want to make is this about Pam Bondi and what is now really starting to come out. If you notice, even the two high-profile arrests that were made, James Comey and Letitia James, if you remember, it was Trump who publicly, literally publicly, was like, what are you waiting for? The statute of limitations is going to run out. Like, how could you have been sitting on this for so long? The perjury case on Comey is a slam dunk. The mortgage fraud case on Letitia James is a slam dunk. And you've just been sitting on it and sitting on it and sitting on it and sitting on it. And now we're just a couple days away. So he practically had to publicly drag her kicking and screaming, Pam Bondi, can you get a freaking indictment? And her work was so, or at least the people under her, but she's the boss, she's responsible, she's supposed to oversee all this, especially when you're talking about someone like, Comey, former FBI director, Letitia James, who, wanted to put Trump in prison for hundreds of years. These are two very high-profile cases. I don't know if you can get even more high-profile than the two of them. And he's basically got to, push her. Like, come on. And she doesn't even dot her I's and cross her T's? And both of the indictments now have been kicked out because of technicalities? And then the case that they represented in front of the grand jury regarding Letitia James was so pathetically weak and so sloppy that the jury refused to re-indict? I mean, come on. Come on, this is amateur hour. And it's obvious. She doesn't want to go after Letitia James. She doesn't want to go after Comey. Now, either it's because of politics and allegiances, because the Bushies, they don't want him to drain the swamp. The Bush family, they like Comey. Lindsey Graham, he likes Comey. Mitt Romney, he likes Comey. They don't want anybody in the swamp to be touched. They're part of the swamp. They made their money in the swamp. Their power's in the swamp. So either it's deliberate subversion and sabotage, or she's too chicken. She's just too scared. She just doesn't have the guts and the courage, the stones, forgive me, the backbone to make these kind of high-profile arrests and, serious convictions and take it to court and put these people behind bars. Because then I'm telling you, then the long knives will really be out. Have you noticed in the media, they don't really attack Pam Bondi? Have you noticed that? They go after Hegseth. They go after Scott Bessent. They go after RFK Jr. My God, they hate J.D. Vance. I mean, outside of Trump. So you can tell by who they attack, who they fear, and who they know is really effective. Now, let me just say something else. I said it on X. I'm urging all of you, please, go to @the Report, all one word. There is an X, a tweet, whatever, that I sent out last night. No truer words have been spoken. What we're now starting to clearly see is that there is a big difference between MAGA and America First, our movement, and the Republican Party. The Republican Party hates MAGA almost as much as the Democrats do. And you now have members of Congress, Republicans in Congress, who have now made a calculated decision to subvert and divide MAGA from within. And they have now made the calculation. Listen to this. They're going to throw the midterm elections. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, very quickly, just to wrap up my final point, and then I want to go right back to the phone lines. 617-266-6868 is the number. So, look, it's very clear now that the establishment Republicans, the rhinos, have now basically decided they're going to tank the midterms. They don't want to move on an election integrity bill. They don't want to move on an immigration bill. They are slow walking almost every single Trump appointee. In fact, I think it was just maybe a couple days ago where I really felt bad for Trump. He was someone in the cabinet. He was talking to someone in the cabinet. He didn't realize there was a hot mic. And he was just exasperated. He was like, what is John Thune doing? You know, he's disappointed in Mike Johnson. He's disappointed in John Thune. They're not moving my nominees through. And because of this, people like Alina Habba are being kicked out as a U.S. attorney for New Jersey in her case, that they're just slow walking everything. And he can sense the way Paul Ryan sabotaged him in his first term, that they're trying to sabotage him again in his second term. There's no question. And so some of them now have made the calculation, let's tank the midterms. Let's deliberately lose. We're not going to pass anything. We're not going to do anything. We're going to fritter away our majority, squander our majority, and let the Democrats sweep back to power, win the midterms, and then they're so freaking rabid, they're going to impeach, 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 defund, defund, defund. And they will then paralyze and effectively destroy Trump's presidency. And it's all now about 2028. And they believe that by neutering Trump, they'll by extension damage J.D. Vance. Because now he's going to have a lot of baggage. And that's when they hope they can seize their opportunity. It's a coup. It's essentially a political coup to retake the Republican Party from MAGA, from Trump, from JD, and from America First. And that's why, just so that you know, Ted Cruz is going to be their stalking horse. He's now going to run in 2028. He's playing coy, but he's already set up an action committee. He's already raising money. He's already getting a lot of anti-Trump donors, big donors behind him. And so they're going to put forth Ted Cruz as the alternative to, in their scheme, in their plan, in their design, a very weakened J.D. Vance after 2 years of relentless impeachments and attacks and smears against both Trump and J.D., led by the Democrats and the media. So this is now what these treacherous rhinos and globalists are planning. This is all the Bush family. They're part of this. This is that snake, Lindsey Graham. This is Mitt Romney. This is the empire wants to retake the Republican Party. And you've already got columns being written in the Wall Street Journal. That's why I read the Wall Street Journal, because I want to know what the establishment Republicans are thinking. They're already saying, this is a headline from one of their recent columnists, who, by the way, can't stand Trump. A rhino globalist all the way. Okay? The restoration of the old order. MAGA's expiration date is 2028. In other words, let's wait out Trump. Let's obstruct Trump. Let's slow walk Trump. Let's undermine Trump. And then in 2028, him and JD, we kick out. And then they believe we can put the genie back in the bottle. And the uniparty will have survived. So my advice to President Trump is you need to understand it's not just that your base wants you to focus on issues at home, but you've got to really worry now. The long knives are out. The people who say they're your friends, they're not your friends. John Thune is not your friend. Mike Johnson is not your friend. Lindsey Graham, even though you've endorsed him for his primary, which I think is a mistake, but let that go. Lindsey Graham is not your friend. He's a snake. He's a snake. Lindsey Graham didn't even vote for Trump in 2016. Lindsey Graham in 2020, 2021 after January 6th, said good riddance to Trump. He should be kicked out of the Republican Party. Lindsey Graham is looking to stick that knife into you so freaking deep, he wants to cut your spine. So my advice to Trump is, you and JD, every minute of every hour of every day, if you have to, hold a televised hearing or meeting, the way you have the cabinet. Bring in Thune, bring in Mike Johnson. I want this bill by this date. I won't accept anything less. If not, I'm going to have my people ring the phone off the hook. In other words, drag them kicking and screaming on election integrity, on national voter ID, on a really good immigration bill. I can run down the whole list. And ask Thune to his face in front of the cameras. I've still got 40 to 50 U.S. attorneys who haven't been confirmed. How the hell am I going to drain the swamp and put people behind bars if I don't even have U.S. attorneys in the positions to be able to make these prosecutions and indictments? Like, are you batting for them or are you batting for us? Whose team are you on? He's got to be on their back. He's got to be on them every day. Push them, push them, push them, push them. And we, the American people, will back him. And I'm serious. If Mike Johnson doesn't want to do it, get rid of him, put somebody else who will. John Thune, you don't want to do it, get rid of him, we'll put in someone who will. Our window is now 1 year. Actually, less than a year. So it's now or never. Agree, disagree. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, let's go to Angelo in Rockland. Thanks for holding, Angelo, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Angelo, how are you, my friend?
Hello. Good, how are you?
Not too bad. Not too bad, Angelo.
So, all I have to say is, Trump's doing the right thing. Don't forget what happened. We all know Trump's got to do everything you just said. I agree with 2,000,000%. China's at the Panama Canal. We all have family members that died of fentanyl, friends who've died of drugs, and everybody's closing behind the curtain, peeking out, getting their handouts, whatever they're doing. Trump's had enough of it, and he's going to make the Caribbean and our neighbors safer. He's a president that stands up for America in our backyard. Everybody else closes an eye. As long as they're behind their gated facilities, they're happy. But I think, look at Europe. You can't even do a tweet. They're putting you behind bars. the jackal, if she won that presidency, we wouldn't be able to even talk on your radio show. It would be over. But Trump's doing the right thing. He has to do everything in his power right now. They did it with lawfare. Do it with legal lawyers. Do everything legal. Go after all these people. Put them against, all of them against the wall legally. Pelosi, all of them. Look at the money trails. Slow them down. Do everything that's right for America. The people that are going along with this, these new news agencies, they want that Obama plan. They want to take over America and make us MAGA. They don't like MAGA because we are true patriots and we love America and we help the world. But we got to do everything legally, and they're just out of control. It's just unbelievable.
Oh, no, you're right. Look, Angelo, you're completely right. And, look, this is what it's becoming very obvious. Remember, Trump's first pick was Matt Gaetz, and Gaetz is a killer. He goes for the jugular. And look how the swamp ferociously fought to make sure that Gaetz wouldn't be the nominee to be the next attorney general. And I think Trump has to realize we're his greatest source of strength. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, let me ask all of you, because the audience, again, seems a little ambivalent and undecided on this. Some are saying Maduro is a threat. Others are saying, he's a horrible human being, a dictator, but that this should not be any of our business. So let me ask you, do you think that Venezuela's strongman, Nicolas Maduro, communist, socialist, anti-American, the man who emptied out his prisons, sent criminals across our border, Tren de Aragua into our country, continues to send narco-terrorists and these boats loaded up with drugs coming into our country, is Maduro a threat to the United States? Is he a threat to our national interests? Is he a threat to American lives? And do you think Trump is right to want him out? 617-266-6868. Okay, let's go to Anthony in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Anthony, and welcome.
Well, as always, thank you for having me, Jeff. Let me start by answering your question. And yes, Maduro is a threat to our country. When a foreign leader of a country opens up all its prison cells and gives the people that are leaving the cells money to head to El Norte, where everything's free in America, you're the enemy of our country. And we've been against communism worldwide since I was born. Reagan was against communism and did everything he possibly could to fight it. So I'm okay with Trump fighting the communism, but he's also got to get on the ball with all that stuff that you mentioned prior to that. But the reason why I called is because you read a text earlier in the show from one of my fellow New Hampshireites that was spot on 1,000%, and I got the proof to prove it. Yes, the media attacked Trump because he's a pirate and he's attacking vessels on the high seas. But yet they kept their mouth shut when Joey seized $500 million, almost $500 million worth of Russian oligarchs' ships and yachts across the globe. Not only did he seize them in countries that were negotiating with us, that are our allies, but he also seized yachts in countries that aren't our allies, like the UAE, Turkey, Maldives. He seized those ships the same style. So when a Democrat goes and becomes a pirate and seizes court orders, seized vessels against Russia, who we are not at war at, the media is A-okay with it. Go, Joey, go. But when Trump does it, Trump bad. Trump's a pirate. Trump is Jack Sparrow of the seas. It's absolutely ludicrous what's going on in our country. And the fact that Democrats just are such hypocrites about everything, like I've said it before, I think this country's done. There's no room to go with and try and get along with somebody who's such a hypocrite to your face. They will just sit there and then they'll say, but it was different when Joey did it. What's the difference? Well, what? What is the difference?
He's a Democrat. No, you're right. You're completely right. I mean, you're absolutely right, Anthony, as usual, by the way. No, look, Anthony, here you have whatever you think of Venezuela, okay? Whether it's we should overthrow him or not, leave it to the Venezuelan people, whatever. These are facts. Maduro is an agent of Russia. He's clearly an ally of Vladimir Putin. There's no question about it. Most of his military is based on Russian weapons. He is a close ally of Iran, no question. He brags about it. And he is, in particular, a very close ally of Communist China. He's a rogue regime. He has stolen multiple elections. He brutalizes his own people. He is wiping out the opposition. He has been engaged in emptying out, as you put it, his prisons, giving them money, incentives, go up north and kill some gringos. He's unleashed Tren de Aragua. They've come into our country. They're basically the Venezuelan version of MS-13. And they have been rampaging and wreaking havoc now for years. He's flooding our country with drugs. He's not the only one. The Mexican drug cartels, Colombia, there are others. But he's a part of it. There's no question. So he's killing Americans. There's no Americans by the thousands have been killed because of Nicolas Maduro. His regime is sanctioned by most of the world. His oil is sanctioned by most of the world. That oil tanker has been sanctioned for years. It's involved in illicit shipping using either Iranian oil, which is sanctioned, or Venezuelan oil, which is sanctioned. And most of it goes to China, okay, at a bargain price. Now, you would think that the Democrats would say, yeah, I mean, of course you're going to seize the tanker. It's been our policy for years to have sanctioned this tanker. It's been our policy for years. This was even under the Biden State Department. They said, Skipper, this oil tanker, it's a rogue tanker. So, but now, finally, you have a president who says, you know what, I'm not just going to talk the talk. I'm going to walk the walk. It's a sanctioned tanker. It's got sanctioned oil. It's got illicit, illegal oil. We're taking the damn boat. Period. Full stop. And we're not going to allow drugs to continue to flow into our country. As Trump rightly said, every boat is loaded up with so much cocaine and fentanyl, it kills about 25,000 Americans. That's why I'm like, blow them all out of the water. Of course you blow them out of the water. What are you, nuts? But no. Even on something as basic as this, preventing our children from overdosing and dying on illicit, illegal narcotics, on drugs. Nope. If Trump's for it, they're against it. And look, honestly, Anthony, my advice now to President Trump, really, I'm not kidding. He should come out and say, I want a war on poverty. We're going to have a massive war on poverty. The Democrats would oppose it. If I were him, I'd come out and say, health care for everybody. Everybody. The Democrats would oppose it. I mean, even if you don't believe it, just say it, and then they'll oppose it. And then they're going to look like real jerks and idiots. But this is, Anthony, this is what happens when you're driven by pure, blind hatred. And that's what we're seeing. And honestly, you can't work with people like that. You can't govern with people like that. It's almost becoming increasingly difficult to coexist with people like that. All I get, this is heartbreaking. All I got were emails prior to Thanksgiving, and now Christmas is around the corner. How they can't, members of Kuhner country can't sit down for Thanksgiving dinner or Christmas dinner with family, sisters, brothers, uncles, aunts, nieces, nephews, godsons, goddaughters, you name it, because they want to argue about Trump. Because their crazy moonbat relatives hate them for having voted for Trump. They don't want to give kids Christmas gifts. They don't want to come to the Christmas table. I mean, it's just, I'm like, you can't shut up for 2 hours and talk about the weather or sports or whatever, family or your work or your job and not talk politics? Not with these moonbats, Anthony. No. Hating Trump now, it's full-time, 24/7. Did you see Rosie O'Donnell? Not that I care. She went off to Ireland. She so hates Trump now, she has to see a therapist. Okay, she's so consumed with hatred, literally, she can't sleep. She can't function. Her blood pressure's high. The doctor's saying you're going to get a heart attack. So the therapist says, don't do anything Trump-related for 2 days. 2 days. 2 days. Don't go on social media. Don't rant about Trump. Don't do don't do some video about Trump. Don't read about Trump. Just go to the countryside, go camping, go hiking, just for 2 days, nothing Trump related. She couldn't last 2 hours. She admitted it. She goes, I couldn't last 2 hours. 2 hours. It's like an addict. She's going cold turkey. She's an addict. They are addicted to hating Trump. It's like he fills up their miserable existence with their hate. So my question to you, Anthony, in all sincerity, how do we share a country with people like this? Is it even possible anymore?
Jeff, this is a culmination of 50 plus years of rehashing the hatred of losing an election. This isn't just started with Donald Trump. This goes all the way back to Ronald Reagan and every other Republican president that's followed. The problem is that they've been boiling the pot because they've come to the determination that they would rather govern over 25 states and have their way than to have 50 states and not be in power.
Anthony, drop the mic, my friend. No truer words have ever been spoken. Thank you so much for that call. 617-266-6868 is the number. Let me ask all of you. Did something like this happen to you over Thanksgiving? Or now that Christmas is, 2 weeks away now? Is your Christmas going to be ruined because of some crazy liberal relative? I don't care if it's your parents or your children or your aunt or your uncle or your niece or your nephew or your godchild or whatever it may be, in which they so don't want to see you simply because you voted for President Trump that it's going to ruin Christmas dinner. Or they're not going to attend, or they're insisting you don't attend, or it's going to become a big food fight and a big argument at the table. In other words, has politics now gotten to the point, this Trump derangement syndrome, this hatred for all things Trump, that now it's affecting you and your family harmony, your ability to enjoy Thanksgiving recently, and now Christmas in 2 weeks? 617-266-6868. I'd love to hear from you. Let's go to Nick in Weymouth. Thanks for holding, Nick, and welcome.
Forget about the Trump derangement syndrome. It is corruption. It's all about winning the midterms, and like you said, it will lead to impeachments. Recently, they're still dragging their feet at the mercy so much of the a federal district judge, a grand jury who refused to hear any evidence on Comey and Letitia James, etc. Pam Bondi is Trump's second biggest mistake. His first was Jeff Sessions, and as soon as he recused himself, he should have dumped him, but he did not. He waited almost 2 years. In her case, she has to go. If a grand jury is not going to hear anything, I suggest you do an investigation of the grand jury members. I suggest they talk to the FBI, who ask them, how many times have you been in the grand jury in the last 10 years? If they lie, you book them, you throw them in jail for lying under oath. But what I'm saying is this is outrageous, okay? There should be some investigations. But in the meantime, she has 93 U.S. attorneys that do what she tells them to do if she wants to. I know there's an executive department that oversees them, but they report to her when it's down and dirty. She's done nothing. They still got this woman here. They want to inject her. Fine, I don't care. Just put someone else in there and go full bore at getting these people. Go for the low-hanging fruit. Those are the people you can burn. Who's going to pay their lawyer fees? Well, you'll see that a lot of them will be pro bono. That's not to protect them. That's to protect the people above them. All this leads to Biden himself. All this leads to Obama and the people who directly reported to them. Nothing has happened. So it's all about the corruption, Jeff. And that's why they hate Trump. Anybody who acted like Trump.
No, I know. Who knows what else is on that tanker? No, I'm with you. What else is on that tanker? No, I'm with you. But no, it's primarily for the oil. The oil is it sanctioned oil? It's illicit oil. The ship itself is an illicit sanctioned ship. So that's why they seized the ship. And they got a seizure warrant from a federal judge 2 weeks ago. That's why the left knows, and the Democrats know deep down, they don't have a leg to stand on this. Of course they don't have a leg to stand on. Nick, as always, thank you very much for that call. 617-266-6868. No, look, when Nick was just ticking off, all this leads to Biden and the Biden crime family. He's right. And this is massive corruption on a huge scale. He's right. The question is, when you go after the mob, and this is what we're dealing with a political mafia. People who've created a gangster or mafia state. Is Pam Bondi, again, I'm not trying to pick on the woman, but let's just have an honest, frank discussion. When you think of bringing down the mob, I think Rudy Giuliani. This is what I think. I think Elliot Ness, in the movies. In other words, I'm talking somebody who's willing to, bare knuckles, get down into the gutter, into the sewer if you need to, and, and smash some heads. That's what you need. You need a street brawler. You need a street fighter. You need somebody who, hey, I don't care. I don't care if the media attacks me. I don't care if the Democrats attack me. I don't care if they threaten my life. I don't care if these people threaten my life. I don't give a damn. In other words, you kind of need an AG in the mold of a Tom Homan. I know he does ICE and he does illegal immigration raids, but if you notice, he comes on and he just says what he thinks. He doesn't care. And, the more you attack him, he says, okay, the more you attack me, the more illegals I'm going to arrest. Look, I'm just going to double down, triple down, quadruple down. He's an old-style, old-school sheriff. What we need is an old-style, old-school prosecutor. Okay? Bare knuckles, take no prisoners. I go after the corrupt people, the criminals, and I don't care who gets in my way. That's not Pam Bondi. And yes, she may have been a very good attorney general in Florida. This is not Florida. You're dealing now with some of the most corrupt deep state criminals in human history. And they have tremendous power and money and wealth and secrets to protect. So you need someone that's going to go in there and crack some heads. I look at her. Honestly, I'm not trying to be funny or deliberately, malicious. She looks to me like she's always getting ready to go to the hair salon and get her nails done. Now, I'm going to be honest. She's almost 60. She looks great for someone. Hey, I'm 56. Okay? I would kill I mean, I know I'm a man, she's a woman, but I would kill to look like her. I mean, the woman takes phenomenal care of herself. She looks 40. I wish I looked 40. So, is she good for TV? Yes. Would she be a good legal analyst on Fox? Yes. I'm sure she's privately a very nice person. But to be the Attorney General, the top law enforcement officer of the United States, in essentially a political war against the swamp and the deep state and the entire cabal of the Democratic Party, those gangsters, those criminals, those hustlers, you're going up against the Obama crime family, the Clinton crime family, the Biden crime family, and all their henchmen. I'm sorry. Nice woman, but she's not up for the job. That's just my take. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree. Heather in Wareham. Thanks for holding, Heather, and welcome.
Hi, Jeffrey. Thanks for taking my call.
My pleasure, Heather.
So I wanted to answer your question. My sister she talks to us. It's more like pleasantries than anything else. But since Trump won, she pretty much stopped talking to me for the most part. We got in a big fight.
Your sister?
And yes, my sister. She lives in Colorado.
Sorry, Heather, I don't want to get too much into personal affairs, and if I'm getting too personal, please tell me. Is she a younger sister or an older sister?
She's younger by like 2 years, 2.5 years.
Were you close growing up? Was it a close relationship?
No, not really. I mean, we got closer as we got older. We were always been black and white. We've always been complete opposites, always.
Okay.
So, but we never not talked or didn't have like any type of relationship, if you know what I mean.
I understand, of course, yes.
And the sad thing is that my niece, I'm close to her daughter, and thank God her niece doesn't get involved in that. I mean, my niece doesn't get involved, and her daughter doesn't get involved in that. She still talks to me and everything, so which is good. Yeah, but even she's even kind of like a little bit. I don't know if you want to say cold to my mother because my mother's a Trumper too. And this happened again back in 2016 too. She didn't talk to us for like a year or two. We got in a big fight when Trump was running back in 2016. So she didn't really talk to us for like a year or two. It's crazy. And then
Heather, so Trump wins again, right? 2024 November. And Heather, how much time left, Mike? Okay, Heather, and now your sister is not talking to you again. Heather, do me a favor. I'm up against a hard break. Please, I want you to talk about what it's like now not to talk to your sister again, simply because your candidate won the election. To me, this is it's mind-boggling. This is blood. This is her sister. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, let's go right back to Heather in Wareham. She has a younger sister, 2 years younger, and Trump won, obviously, in 2024. And since that election victory, her sister refuses to speak to Heather, and she's also become quite cold to their mother. Heather, how long? So she hasn't spoken to you at all since November 2024?
No, I don't want. She talks to me like she called right around Thanksgiving, but it's pleasantries. It's very like, it's like it's pleasantry. It's all surface, and you can tell the relationship has totally changed. And my sister's very much the type that like everything has to be her way, and like you can't say anything that she doesn't agree with. Like she's always been that way. So it's like you always have to watch what she says, and she's always like the smartest person in the room, and she's always right, you know. And then it's like we've had a bunch of Facebook fights before, you know, before the election, and I don't want to say Facebook fights because I don't engage with her in that sense because it's not worth my aggravation, but she like gives me nasty comments on some of my Facebook posts, you know, about Trump, which I can't even be bothered with hers because hers is, you know, I think hers is a little ridiculous too. But yeah, like this year too, like she decided, instead of giving gifts for Christmas, she's gonna donate in all of our names to a ridiculous charity that I don't even agree with. And that's fine, whatever. But that's her way of saying she can't be bothered. Do you know what I mean? It's not like she's being nice because she's given to charity. It's just her way of saying she can't be bothered. And in other words, if she really wanted to donate to charity, she would have reached out and said, Heather, what charity is important to you? I'd like to donate to that charity for Christmas instead of giving a gift. That would be one thing, but it's her charity. Do you know what I mean? And it's a tax write-off for her because she owns her own business. So it's, you know, she's kind of hypocritical in a lot of ways.
Heather, if you don't mind me asking, and again, if I'm getting too personal, I know this is a family matter. I promise I won't be offended. Did you and your sister see each other for Thanksgiving? Did you have dinner together?
No, she lives in Colorado, so no, we did. I mean, that's the one thing is, so she lives in Colorado, so it's not like we never really see each other for the holidays, so that's like not an issue really. It's just like her whole demeanor. And then there's been a family, since my father died, there's been issues with the estate and stuff. So, and she didn't, not to get that's a little too personal, but she didn't agree with like certain things, how our opinions on, so she, since that
on
incident,
the inheritance.
she kind of,
well, that happens in a lot of families, but, okay, I got that. Did she ever confront you and say, look, I'm mad at you. I'm angry at you. I'm really upset because Trump did A, B, C, or because you're supporting X, Y, Z. Did she ever tell you, whether on the phone or to your face, why it bothers her so much that you vote different politically than she does? Has she ever explained this to you? And why it means so much that, for the most part, you're, as you said, you're superficially, you exchange a few pleasantries on the phone, but essentially, you're not on speaking terms. I mean, you are, but it's very superficial. So basically, what did Trump do, or what did you do by voting for Trump that justified, let's just say, disrupting and damaging the relationship?
I really don't know. So before the election, she called me or emailed me, whatever, texted me and says, we need to have a conversation because your posts have really upset me. And she's like, and I really want to talk about it. So I called her and, I said, Holly, if you're looking for an apology, I'm not going to give you one. I'm like, that's ridiculous. That's my opinion. I'm like, you're entitled to your opinion. Like, I don't agree with a lot of yours, but I'm not going to get all mad. Like, that's your opinion. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to be like, oh, I'm not going to talk to you because you voted for the other side. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous, but like I said, so you're not going to get one because it's her. She's so manipulative too. It's like, oh, you hurt my feelings, and because I didn't agree with her. That's ultimately what it is. It's like, you hurt my feelings because you don't agree with me. Well, I'm not going to give you an apology because of that. That's
Heather. I got to ask. I'm sorry, and I don't mean to be offensive because it's your sister. So please, I'm not trying to be insulting. How old is your sister?
53. So she's 51.
She's 51 and she's going on about her feelings or hurt because of a post that you put up on Facebook about Trump or about whatever, liberals or Democrats? What are we, 10 years old? I mean, I'm sorry, but even Ashton and Ava, my Ashton's 15, my Ava's 13. They're starting to develop their own political views and stuff. And even they disagree. And they're like, okay. Like, you have your opinion, I have my opinion. Notice with many, many liberals, it's all about feelings. It's always, you make me feel like this, or something you said bothers me, in terms of my emotions, or again, my feelings, my sensibilities. It's never logic, reason, evidence, facts, truth. And, they've this phenomenon of, liberals being quote unquote snowflakes, who suffer from quote unquote microaggressions. Every little opinion bothers them. Everything is a microaggression. Oh my God, I'm so offended. Oh, I'm so hurt. You're not that fragile. You're a 51-year-old woman. I don't care, whatever. You're an adult. You can handle a different opinion. It's called living in a free society. So, okay, Biden was in office for 4 years. Believe me, he called us a lot of names. He called us garbage. He called us traitors. He called us insurrectionists. We lived. We're okay. We survived. So Trump is now in office. Your guy lost, or whatever, your gal lost, Kamala lost, Trump won. You get him next time. But to barely speak to your sister, to barely speak to your mother, because you don't like the presidential candidate they voted for, I'm sorry. For me, that's a red line. Ideology never comes above family, above blood, above parents, above siblings, above friends, above human relationships. I'm telling you, that's communism. It is. It's very destructive. 617, and it's immoral. I'm sorry. It's wrong. It's just wrong. I mean, nothing would break my heart more. And I have beautiful pictures in my room. I've got beautiful pictures in my hallway of Ashton and Ava. When Ashton was younger, Ava was just a baby. And to see them hugging, they're hugging each other, kissing each other, playing with each other. And, they're about 2.5 years apart. So similar to what Heather and her sister. And then, God forbid I'm in my old age and I find out my two children are not speaking to each other. And I'm like, what happened? Like, what would what would deserve to break this fundamental bond? What is it? What was the great crime that was committed? Oh, Ashton voted for this candidate, or Ava voted for this candidate. Are you kidding me? I swear to you, if there was any breath left in my body, I would call both of my children and said, I'm very disappointed. You've broken my heart. You've broken my heart. I didn't raise you like this. It's just a damn election. Elections are very important. There's no question. But the two of you, your brother and sister in my case, or whatever, sister and sister, whatever, your siblings, your brothers, your sisters, your blood, your family. What's more important than family? Agree, disagree. 617-266-6868 is the number. 8:36 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer. Lines are jammed. Gary in Levitt. Thanks for holding, Gary, and welcome.
Kids. Aye, Capitan. I can't hear you. Aye, El Presidente. Donald J. Trump sails over the seas. Donald J. Trump pants. If treasure and bragging are things that you love, then Donald J. Trump pants. Then hang up on your ships and blow up the drugs. Donald J. Trump pants. Donald J. Trump pants. Donald J. Trump pants.
Hey, SpongeBob, why is Kamala Harris in Bikini Bottom?
I don't know, Patrick. Why? I can't believe my eyes. It's Kamala Harris and Bikini Bottom.
I think she's looking for the secret formula.
Secret formula, my arse. She just likes to drink like a fish.
Gary, I got to say, your imitations are incredible. My kids grew up watching SpongeBob, so I know SpongeBob very well. And you got him spot on. And the way you adapted it to to Kamala and Trump and what happened down in Venezuela. Gary, you got to do me a favor. The next time you call, I want you to do me. Okay? I want you to do me. I want you to do a 1 minute, spoof satire on the Kuhner man. If you could do me that favor, because I like it when people make fun of my accent or the way I talk or whatever. I think it's very funny. So, Gary, honestly, outstanding job. Really, I got to tell you. I felt like I was listening to SpongeBob. I mean, your imitations are incredible. Gary, God bless you, my friend. And if you don't call before Christmas, have a very happy Merry Christmas. That, of course, is Gary Levitt. I'm sorry, I misread the board. And he's just a brilliant comedian. 617-266-6868. Jack in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Jack, and welcome.
Morning, Jeff. How are you?
Very good. How are you, Jack?
I am just amazing. Having coffee with my wonderful wife here in the morning. We have a ritual of listening to you every morning, and it's amazing all the things that the topics that you put out there and then the callers. But let me just go right to the point here. There's another variation I think a lot of callers or people that are listening now are suffering with. I get along with my siblings. I'm one of 7. I'm the oldest brother. But I have an older sister. And I have other siblings that hate Trump. Here's the deal. We don't talk politics. We don't talk about it because we'll start a big, huge poop storm if you get my drift, okay? So we don't talk about it, but I think we both understand that that's not worth, getting all bent out of shape over. But my saving grace is my wife and her family, because they're all MAGA and Trump supporters. So I get that from them, and I'm very grateful for that. But my wife and I have had a lot of conversation in my sadness because people in my family just don't stop to look at the big picture. Trump may not be the best speaker, let's say, if I'm right on that. But if you look at what he's accomplished and what his goals are, his campaign promises, his love for the country. And my wife and I were very faithful. We love God. We love the Lord very much. And Trump has said that many times. Trump has even, spoken prayers, especially around holidays. And I see the goodness in him. And my siblings, unfortunately, they don't. We have a neighbor that when my wife and I go for our walks on the day, he has friends that no longer speak to him because he's a Trump supporter. And my heart breaks for these people.
That's unbelievable.
I don't know what the answer is. It's just very sad, Jeff. It really is. We know why we love our president, and I wish we could just all come to the table and everyone kind of speak and just be calm. But I don't think that can happen in a lot of cases, and that's what's really unfortunate.
No, you're dead on. And Jack, look, honestly, it's heartbreaking. And this is what I don't understand. And really, we're starting to fracture as a society. We are. We're not able, the little things that we used to do, and the little things, I don't mean to disparage them. I mean little in the sense of the common courtesies, the just well-mannered behavior, respectful behavior at a family gathering, at a festive time, whatever it may be, the little niceties and pleasantries of life. We're losing that. And look, just to give you an example, at my dad's funeral, and I'm thinking a lot about my dad because the 1-year anniversary of his death is a couple of weeks away. And a lot of my friends who I grew up with showed up at his funeral. So did Grace's friends. And so did one of my sister-in-law, Lori. She was very, very, very close sister-in-law, and she has a lot of friends in Montreal as well. About 90% of all our friends are very liberal. They hate Trump. I mean, they're Canadians, but they hate Trump. And they really don't like our politics. My politics, Grace's politics, Lori's politics. Honestly, I don't care. Like, I'm just being honest. I don't care. If you really press me, I don't care for their views. I think they're ill-informed. In fact, I know they're ill-informed. I don't take them very seriously because I think they're pretty much ignorant on politics. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, let's go right back to Jack in New Hampshire. So, Jack, just quickly finish my story, and then I want to go right back to you. So, we're at my dad's funeral. A lot of my, friends that I grew up with, liberal, very anti-Trump. Same thing with Grace's friends and my sister-in-law Lori's friends. Now, afterwards, when the funeral was over, they shake my hand, my condolences, etc. And then right away, they start, because they know I'm a conservative and they know I'm a big, I got a large following here. I'm a major talk show host here in the United States, conservative, very pro-Trump. And I don't know what they're trying to prove, but they start with this, boy, things must be really bad in America now under Trump, right? Oh my God, it's going to be horrible now that he's going to come to power. Oh my, I don't know how you guys are going to do it. And I was very calm. This is my dad's funeral. Literally, the body is in the casket. And I said, would you like it if I came to your father's funeral? And started, because they're all big Justin, at the time, they're all big Justin Trudeau fans, and start bad-mouthing Justin Trudeau at your dad's wake or at your dad's funeral? Would you like that? Would you think that's appropriate and respectful? And they said, well, no, we wouldn't like it. So why are you doing it to me? If it's, do unto others as you would have done unto you. If you don't like it, and if you wouldn't want this done to you or your family, why are you doing it to me? My dad didn't deserve this. I said, he was very nice, which he was, I'm telling you. He was very nice to all of you. Very nice, very warm, very welcoming, very giving. People would come over, he'd share his wine, he'd share his food, his sausages, his homemade sausages. He was funny, he made you laugh. I said, he was always good to you. This is not a question of politics or freedom of speech. It's a question about respecting my father. We're here to commemorate him. It's not about taking a shot at Donald Trump. Now, to be honest, and you could tell I kind of shamed them a little bit. But I'll be brutally honest with you, Jack. Then, we met with them later. This is after my dad was cremated. That's how what he wanted. And I knew it was going to be forgive my expression, it was going to be a Trump bitch fest. I knew that. I know how they are. Now, I'll be frank, okay? I don't value their opinion. I'm not saying this to be insulting. They don't know what they're talking about. They're very poorly informed. They watch that propaganda on CBC, which is sort of like their version of, the BBC in Britain. So they watch 20 minutes of that. Half of what they think they know is false. The other half is a half-truth. Now, I'm not going to stand there and argue and correct them on fact after fact after fact after fact. You want to be an ignoramus. You want to be ignorant. You want to believe in myths and lies and propaganda. If you want to watch that left-wing drivel and garbage, that's your right. It's free country. Do what you want. To be honest, it goes in one ear and out the other. And I kept telling them the whole conversation. I said, I'm not going to bite. I'm not going to argue with you about Donald Trump. I told him a few times, look, frankly, you don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what I'm talking about. No, I'm sorry, you don't. The Canadians, you don't know what's happening in the United States. You're getting propaganda. You're getting misinformation. But I'm not here to talk about Donald Trump. I haven't seen many of you in 15 to 20 years. How are you? How are your children? How's work? How's life? How are you, my friend? How have you been? That's what I care about. I don't care about your political views. I don't. And I said, I hate to tell you this, but you're all Canadian citizens. So your views on Trump really don't matter. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be offensive, but they started to laugh at that. I said, it's not like you get to vote. So let's talk about something else. Let's agree to disagree and just move on. So, okay, I said to everybody at the table, I said, okay, you hate Trump and you really don't like the fact that I support Trump. Got it. Message registered. How are you? Because to me, friendship is more important than politics. And we used to be able to know that, Jack. We used to be able to be mature enough. It didn't even need to be said the way I had to say it to my friends. But this is what I mean. We're becoming, to me, much more immature as a society, infantile. And we're losing the niceties, the manners, just the pleasantries. Okay, this person is this thing politically. You're this thing politically. Let's not talk politics tonight because it's just going to end up being a blow up. No one's going to convince anybody of anything, and it's just going to ruin the evening. And people were restrained and grown up and mature enough to say, yeah, okay. But not anymore. Now everybody, I'm telling you, it's overwhelmingly on the left. I'm right, you're wrong. And you see, I'll tell you what's changed, Jack. Final point, then I want to go back to you. And I know this. Okay, another story for another time. They believe that if you support Donald Trump, you're evil. That if you support Donald Trump, you must be a racist. You must be a white supremacist. Somewhere lurking in your heart is a freaking Nazi. Okay? There's a Hitler lover right there, somewhere. And that's what eats them up. And that's why they constantly have to get in our face. And the problem they have is, well, but Jack isn't a Hitler lover. I've known Jack my whole life. Well, Jack isn't a racist because I've known him my whole life. No, Jack is not a white supremacist. But you see, the propaganda, the indoctrination, the nonstop messaging, the brainwashing that I get from the media and the Democrats is every Trump supporter is a Nazi, a white supremacist, an insurrectionist, blah, 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 blah. So they can't, it doesn't gel. They can't, in other words, what reality is doesn't correspond to the propaganda in their head. So they have to provoke a confrontation and either have you, bow and abjectly say, I'm so sorry, I'm wrong, I confess my sins, and, almost like self-flagellation. Or they go back to their friends because they're all a bunch of sheep. That's the other thing I've realized about liberals. They're sheep. They're sheep. They're the biggest conformists you'll ever find on the planet. They all have to toe the same line. They're like sheep. Whatever the party says, whatever that talking point is, they all mouth it and mimic it. So there's no intellectual independence whatsoever. So then they have to go back to their friends and say, oh, I had dinner with Jack last night, or whatever. We had coffee last night and cake. I gave it to him with both barrels. I told him he's a racist, xenophobic, Islamophobic, white supremacist. Yeah. And he practically kicked me out of his house. Yeah. Okay, tough guy, you showed him. So he can brag to his friends, or she can brag to her friends. I'm a good little moonbat. It's pathetic. Now, I'm telling you, I'm not romanticizing the past. I know. People did not behave like this. In my family, very divergent political views. Friends of my father, friends of my mother, very divergent political views and strongly held views. We put politics aside. People are more important than politics, especially family and friends. Those days now increasingly are gone. And honestly, Jack, think about it. If your own sister or your own brother or your own parents or your own aunt or uncle or your own niece or nephew, or take your pick, will hate you and not have anything to do with you over who you voted for, that's your blood. Then what hope is there for the country? If your own blood despises you, well, what's a stranger going to do? And that's why, to me, I'm sorry, we have to shame the left. Christmas is not worth your stupid virtue signaling. You're not mature enough to come to Christmas. You're not mature enough to live in a free society. It's just politics. And if you can't see that, you're a pathetic loser. I think that's the attitude we should have. Jack, am I wrong?
You nailed it, Jeff. I want to emphasize on one point, and I think this is really good information for the listening audience. Here's the deal. A lot of what I'm hearing, the views, is misinformation. And guess where the source is coming from? Facebook. People aren't reaching out to Newsmax or Fox or podcasts or Jeff Kuhner or whatever source is giving the truth about this administration and what they're doing. They're all talking amongst themselves on Facebook. And I had something with my sister about that, and with Charlie Kirk, as a matter of fact. She said, I can't stand that guy. Now, this is a devout Christian that loves the Lord, and she went up one side, down the other when I mentioned Charlie Kirk's death, and it was all because of what she heard on Facebook. Social media is a sinful place. I'm sorry. It's not the resource that people should be using to get the facts about what's happening in the world or in the country or in Trump's administration. You need to go to stronger, more factual sources. And I think people need to step back, because if that's their source for their information, well, guess what? It's their misinformation that's polluting them and putting out all this toxic, unnecessary hatred. You know, that's what I see.
Oh, it's pure hatred. No, you're dead on, Jack. Brilliant. I'm telling you, absolutely brilliant. It is pure hatred. And the thing about social media, remember, it's intent, right? Social media. It's intent. This is how it was sold to us, that this was going to bring people together. This was going to be like a virtual community where we would come together like what the Italians call the piazza, like the public square, right? That people would come together like in a beautiful Italian piazza, sip some coffee, and everybody just talks. But we're going to do it, obviously, on a computer or a laptop or whatever. But this is going to bring everybody together. It's the opposite. It's tearing us apart. And because it's toxic, it's spewing lies, bile, hatred. Forget even you're right. It's misinformation and disinformation, but it's hate the other side. In particular, hate conservatives, hate Trump, hate MAGA, hate anybody that disagrees with the left. And it's always to the worst. It's not even they're just wrong. No, that's not enough. They're evil. They're immoral. They're white supremacists. They're Nazis. It's dehumanization. And you keep, and click and click and click and click, and you keep doing this over and over and over. You can't sit down and have a civil conversation over Christmas. In fact, it's even worse than that. It's you can't sit down over Christmas and not rage at your fellow family member because of who they voted for. That to me, you can't even say, no, okay, look, I'm just going to keep quiet. Let's just keep quiet. They can't. They can't. They just can't do it. Jack, thank you very much for that call. Or whatever. You voted for Trump? Yeah, okay. Well, like, in other words, and notice, liberals never say, but why? Like, no, I'm just curious, but why? It's right away, you voted for Trump, well, you're a racist. Well, you voted for Trump. KKK. But why don't you ask me why? It may shock you. Here, under Biden, inflation. I can't pay the bills. Yeah. No, everything doubled under Biden. Yeah. Whether you think who to blame is, it doesn't matter. Grocery bills are too high. Gas doubled. Just everything. I can't pay my bills. I'm literally living hand to mouth. I don't know how much longer I can survive. So I got to give Trump a shot at, the economy under Trump. I'm sorry, it was better. At least for me, it was better. So I'm thinking of me, my spouse, my kids. Yeah. Yeah, no, we got a lot of crime. A lot of illegals came in under Biden. And, a woman in our community was raped and another child was molested. And no, I don't want to live like that. So for me, it's an issue of public safety. Yeah. That's the kind of answers you get. Or what you often also get is, I'm serious. Well, he's going to reshore industry. He's going to start putting tariffs because all these free trade deals, we had a big plant and it employed a lot of people, but now they're gone. The whole plant got outsourced to Mexico or to China or to, Vietnam or whatever. And we've lost 7,000 jobs and I can't get work. My husband can't get work. We're unemployed. We have no future. The value of our house has collapsed. There's fentanyl now everywhere because there's no economic hope. So yeah, no, I voted to bring manufacturing and jobs back. Yeah, that's why. Yeah. No, I'm just tired of all the wars. Our soldiers are dying, maimed, and 20 years in Afghanistan. Look at the disaster under Biden. Look at the disaster under Iraq. Where, World War III potentially between Russia and Ukraine. I don't want to see our soldiers getting killed anymore in these pointless, endless wars. Yeah, that's the reason. And so you're not a Hitler lover? No. Hold on. You mean you don't want to put black people in chains? What? Hold on. Are you an admirer of Vladimir Putin? What? They never ask. They just assume and they go right away to the absolute worst possible motive. 617-266-6868. Dan in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Dan, and welcome.
Thanks for taking the call, Jeff.
My pleasure.
I had a pretty interesting Thanksgiving myself. We do have a moon bat in the family, and she lives on the moon. And I was told by my daughter, oh, be nice. Don't bring up any politics. I says, okay, honey, I won't do that. So I don't know how it happened, but I ended up sitting beside Dorothy. And very promptly, she pissed me off about enlarging my garden too close to the property line of my daughter's house. That, of course, I gave the deposit on to help buy the house, of course. So she's telling me that I don't want to get that garden too close and this and that. And I says, I'm going to slip these gloves off. And meanwhile, she's not doing so well. She's, struggling. So I said, I look at her and I said, how you feeling? She goes, Metza. I said, yeah, you really don't look so good. Says, that I think that dementia and the Alzheimer's is catching up to you. So she looks at me right in the eye. And I says, I stop laughing. I don't mean it, but I meant it. And so she's going on, and I said, how do you think Trump's doing? Oh. And she goes, I can't stand him. And she's going on and she's lighting off and everything. I said, well, I brought up a couple of things. What about the border? What about this? What about that? Oh, they don't show you. They're invading the border. They're invading the border. And she's going right at him and everything. And I says, well, what do you think of Caroline Levitt? And she goes, she's a pig. Now, mind you, Caroline Levitt is my cousin.
Oh,
and I got a little, and I got a little ruffled on that one. And I says, well, if you keep talking like that, I'm just going to have to go over and turn your oxygen tank off. And she looked at me again. I said, oh, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I wouldn't do such a thing. And so we're going on. And she's basically, kind of a, nasty, no humor, old biddy. I guess that's a good way to wrap it up. Just an old biddy.
Dan?
I'm right here.
Okay, you just...
Yeah, I said, you must think that I'm a Nazi.
Oh, you said that to her?
Yeah. And
okay, what did she say?
She said, well, you could be. and I said, well, to be honest with you, I'd love to show you my book of non-comp, and I just got my Nazi flag in the mail.
Oh, Dan, this is priceless. I said, that's a great way to handle them. I got to say. 617-266-6868 is the number. Jeff in the Freedom State, Florida. Thanks for holding, Jeff, and welcome.
Thank you, Jeff. Thanks for taking my call.
My pleasure.
Okay, I got a good one for you. I'm down here in Florida, live relatively close to my dad. I have a sister, a real moonbat sister, lives out in Santa Barbara, California. She had not been out to see my dad for Christmas or Thanksgiving for many years. All of a sudden, her daughter moves to Miami, so she decides to come out for Thanksgiving. So she communicated that with my dad, and about 2 weeks before Christmas, we really didn't get along because she's hardcore left, I'm hardcore right. Big Trump supporter. Same with my brothers. And so he knew there was friction in the family. And as most parents, their dream is to have their kids get along and, socialize and all of that. And he realized there was some tension there. So he says to me about 2 weeks before Thanksgiving, about 3 years ago, when my sister's daughter had just moved to Miami, and I'm in Fort Lauderdale. Pam just notified me she's going to be out for Thanksgiving. Would you be willing to have dinner with us? And he was expecting me to say no. Me and my wife said, sure, that would be great. He was so happy. He was happy as could be because he expected me to say no. And we said, okay, Dad, we'll see you next weekend. No, 3 days later, I get an email from him. Jeff, unfortunately, your sister does not want to have Thanksgiving with you. She does not want to socialize with you on a personal level. However, she will still communicate with you by email on personal matters. This greatly upsets me. My point here is, Jeff, if you're on the right, you make sacrifices. You're not a narcissist. You do good things for other people. I stepped over my shadow for the benefit of my father. These people can't make one sacrifice for anybody to make somebody else happy. It's all about them and nobody else. I was so mad, Jeff, when I read that email that she couldn't do something nice for somebody else. These people are all one way. They name streets after them. One way.
Jeff, I got to tell you, very powerful story. And, notice, Jeff, it's always the liberals and the moonbats who go on about, compassion and, inclusion and respect for diversity and tolerance. That's all they go on about. But you're exactly right. They're selfish. They're narcissistic. they're completely intolerant to the point, like, what's it, look, as a father, and I'm sure you can relate to this. Come on, I don't want to see my children fighting. Let's have Thanksgiving. Come on. We can talk about anything but politics. Come on, we can have a good time. We can laugh, have some memories. Nothing makes a father happier, especially once he gets older and he doesn't know how much more time he has left on this earth. Hey, my beautiful boy Jeff, my beautiful daughter Pam, we're drinking wine together or whatever. We're having turkey, we're laughing, we're talking, we're getting along, at least for a couple of hours. Of course, that's what every parent wants. And they're so freaking selfish. And, I got to say this, Jeff, I don't mean to pile on, and I want to get your take. When you think, because as a parent, I see it now more obviously than when I was growing up under my parents. When I see how much effort and sacrifice it takes to parent a child, to raise a child, father, mother, to feed them when they're so young, to change their diapers all the time, in the middle of the night, the babies are crying, you wake up, you're exhausted, it's okay. No, honey, you sleep, I'll take care of it. No, you sleep, I'll take care of it. The sacrifices that are made for every child to grow up and then to, become adults and self-sufficient adults. I don't know, for a child not to acknowledge that and say, look, they did so much for me. Without them, I wouldn't even be here. If dad just wants us to get along for 2 hours over Thanksgiving dinner, is that so much to ask? That they can't even make that little sacrifice. I don't know. There's something about liberalism. I don't know what it is. Honestly, Jeff, I don't know what it is. It's like a spiritual cancer. It rots away at the inside. Jeff, am I wrong? I don't know. What say you?
You're 100% correct. And your previous caller and you were discussing Facebook. She's on Facebook every single day, slamming Trump, passing out fake information. These people are deranged. They really don't think clearly. They live on a separate world. It's just unbelievable. I just can't fathom it. I call them the demo rats because they are just unbelievable. They're just unbelievable.
I agree. I so agree. Jeff, very quickly, and I don't want to linger here because it's a touchy subject. And if I'm getting too personal, please tell me. Did your dad afterwards say anything to you like, hey, Jeff, what Pam did hurt me? What Pam did, I was disappointed. Did he say anything like that?
He put it right in that email. He said something to the effect, I'm just disappointed, right? I'm very disappointed and upset on her decision. And then I think the next time I saw him, he did bring it up. He says, it's very unfortunate that your sister thinks that way. I thought it would be a very good time. So I could tell it really hurt him.
Yeah, of course. Jeff, listen, the important thing is you did right. You did right by your dad, and you did right by yourself, your wife, and your family. 617-266-6868 is the number. Tom in Framingham. Thanks for holding, Tom, and welcome.
Jeff.
Tom, go ahead, my friend.
Another good show. Hold on, I'm in speaker. All right. I just want to talk about a previous topic that you were discussing, and it was really what's going on with the Trump administration, and it's not always about just getting power and getting elected. It's how effectively you use power, and there are things that could be done that would more effectively, he'd be able to use his power more effectively. Now, one of the things is we're talking about all these bills that he has to pass, that the Congress isn't passing. Well, the Congress can only pass, the only way Congress is going to be able to pass bills is through reconciliation. And the only way you're going to be able to get a bill through reconciliation is if the Senate parliamentarian is favorable to what you're doing. And the Senate parliamentarian, this one, Elizabeth McDonough, was appointed by Harry Reid years ago. She should have been long gone. One of the first things Thune should have done was to throw her overboard, to get rid of her, and then get a favorable Senate parliamentarian. Because unless they get rid of her, I mean, this would be step one now. If you wanted to get another bill through that you could use reconciliation for, you have to get rid of her. But Thune doesn't seem like he's amenable to doing this. Two, you got all these people in Congress getting rich, and they're getting rich on a congressman's salary or a senator's salary. And one of the things I think you need to wield power, if you're a president, one of the things you need is leverage. And I think it's high time, I think it's high time that the right-wing conservative press start doing their own due diligence and finding out how these people are getting their money.
Oh, I agree. No, Tom, listen, look, you're making excellent points, really, across the board. Look, Tom, this is the only thing I could add. You're right. It's about not just winning power, it's about wielding power. And one of the things about wielding power is you have to put the right people in certain positions who can then exercise, wield, and enforce that power. And I'm going to read something. This is from Ann Vandersteel. I've had her on several times. I highly respect her. She lives in Florida. In fact, she lives near the Miami-Dade area. And she is and by the way, you don't get more MAGA than her. She is, when I say a Trump loyalist, when I say America first, I don't think it's possible to be more America first, frankly, than Ann Vandersteel. And I have immense respect for her. She's very smart, a brilliant writer, and a woman of immense courage and conviction. And so we talked about it just a couple days ago about this historic defeat in Miami, where for the first time in nearly 30 years, it's flipped now to the Democrats, and they literally have a socialist has been elected as the mayor of Miami. We're talking now deep red Florida. So now just please listen to this. This is what Ann Vandersteel, this is her neck of the woods. This is what she wrote, and it ties everything in. Folks, mark my words. If Trump doesn't fire Pam Bondi, Susie Wiles, Dan Bongino, and Kash Patel right now, she puts right now in caps, 2026 is going to be an absolute bloodbath for Republicans. Yesterday, she wrote this on Wednesday, so she's talking about Tuesday's election results. So yesterday, Miami-Dade went blue for the first time in over 30 years. 30 freaking years. Now, this is very important. And no, she didn't win on affordability. Demographics shifted, meaning Republican. Republican turnout cratered. And the Florida GOP sat on their hands like it was 2016 on repeat. Where was the ground game? Where were the door knockers? Where was the MAGA fire? The fire in the belly? Nowhere. Now here it comes. Because the people Trump put in charge are anti-MAGA squishes playing prevent defense in a knife fight. Bondi's too busy doing her makeup for Fox News hits. Susie Wiles is playing keep away with Trump and his MAGA constituents. Bongino's apologizing and explaining on podcasts instead of arresting Democrats. And Kristi Noem is still doing threatening ads while Miami turns into Caracas. Trump enthusiasm is waning bigly here in the Sunshine State. And the Republican Party of Florida, listen now to this, it's sort of a bit like the Mass GOP here in Massachusetts, is openly hostile to the base that carried him across the finish line twice. They didn't lift a finger for the America First candidates. They sabotaged them. They let Miami fall without firing a shot. Now, she's speaking directly to Trump, and I want to repeat it because I don't know if they listen to her. I know they listen to me. Mr. President, you won a historic mandate. Don't piss it away on disloyal staffers who think Drain the Swamp was just a bumper sticker. Fire the 4 of them today and bring in real fighters who actually knock doors, not just choke microphones. The base is watching. Florida is watching. And we're all done with excuses. Now, I'm telling you that she speaks for a lot of people who voted for Trump and for a lot of the MAGA base. Now, I'll be frank. Bondi, Patel, Bongino, that I know about. Susie Wiles, I want to look into this a little bit more. I want to investigate, and because I'm hearing more and more complaints about Susie Wiles. I thought she was doing a very good job. I may be mistaken in that. I want to look into it. But my point is this. They're not wielding power at the DOJ. They're not wielding power at the FBI. They're not wielding power when it comes to making arrests and fulfilling key promises to drain the swamp. And I don't know if this is Ron DeSantis sabotaging him in Florida, but there's something going on. As I said to you about maybe an hour ago, the rhinos want Trump to fail. And it now appears, because she's right, they gave up Miami without firing a shot. I couldn't believe it. Everybody's sitting on their hands. We're going to send Trump a message. We're going to send Trump a message. What message? That a socialist now should be running Miami? Like, is that, you want a communist now? So you want another Mamdani in Miami? Are you people on drugs down there? But it seems now that the establishment has made a decision. We're going to tank the midterms. She's right. It's going to be a bloodbath. If things don't turn around, it's going to be a bloodbath. I'm warning the president. Not because I hate you, because I love you. Please, I want you to win the midterms. I want you to have the most successful second term of any president in American history. I want you to be you and to fulfill your promises. Because if you do, we will be great again. But the GOP establishment, the globalists, the rhinos in your own party are now setting it up that you lose the midterms so the Democrats can come back and impeach you. Forgive me, impeach your ass. And then paralyze you and eventually destroy your presidency. And by extension, really damage J.D. Vance. Because they want to then retake power. And they believe Ted Cruz is the guy, Teddo, that Cruz will be the one to stab him. Marilyn in Norwood. Thanks for holding, Marilyn, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. I will be brief, but I have an observation which I think is the underlying reason for all of the political polarization which exists in this country, and it is the systemic decline of public education. If you look at people that were products of public high schools in the early 60s, the mid-60s, or, even encroaching into the late 60s, they were much better educated. I had the good fortune, my parents sent me to a Catholic girls' school in Dedham, Massachusetts, which still exists. And in that time, I was in the school from 1970 to 1974, which was a tumultuous time in this country because the Vietnam War was winding down. There was still a lot of campus unrest and all. And so one of our required courses for graduation was that we had to take a course on religion, philosophy, and also debating. And so all of us were exposed to the concept that for most issues, no one possesses all of the truth. You know, there's a range of perspectives. We were trained how to be at least respectful of other points of view without becoming, hysterical and emotional and angry and whatnot. And it was the best course I ever had because I noticed in talking to friends over the years that do not share my political views, which were more often aligned with your political views, they are not capable of hearing points of view that do not align with their own thinking. So in school, the teacher would give us like a news topic of the day, and sometimes it was the Vietnam War or the U.S., evacuation from Hanoi or whatever. And we would have to develop the arguments, why the U.S. government handled it this way, why it was a good idea. And then the next week, we might be given the same topic, and we would have to argue from the opposing point of view. And it was a wonderful, wonderful learning experience. And in that era, and also somewhat into the 1980s, if my memory was correct, there was David Frost on television, and he had a very thoughtful interview program, and also William F. Buckley. But now, when you listen to anyone on cable, conservative or liberal or radical, whatever that you want to call them, they just all reinforce their own point of view. And it's really shaping how Americans perceive the world, and I think it's very destructive to our society, and I do wonder if this is being intentionally done to break down our society.
Oh, I agree. I think there's no question it's intentional. If you look at, say, all of the big cable news networks, Newsmax is the exception, but whether it's Fox, I don't care. I mean, I like some people on Fox, but I'm just calling it the way I see it. Fox, CNN, definitely. MS Now, definitely. It's designed to divide, to polarize, to incite, to rage bait, as they say. You look at the nightly news, ABC, CBS, NBC, it doesn't matter. It's there to rage bait, to incite, and they want to break the country into tribes. You break the country into tribes where political identity is everything. See, notice, as we lose God, as we lose religion, as we lose the church, then we have to fill it with something. And what you're seeing now, it's the supremacy of politics, of ideology. And so people now define themselves by the party they belong to. It's like their political identity is the most important thing. But even more than being a father, being a mother, being a member of a family, being whatever, whatever. Many people aren't even religious, so they're not Christians or Jewish or whatever. They're just, it's all politics. And they're breaking us down, and it's deliberate because ultimately divide and conquer is a strategy that has worked going all the way back to the Roman Empire. And that's what the globalist elites want. The media today is not a media. It's propaganda. It's there to sow confusion, to sow misinformation, to sow lies, but especially to sow rage and hatred. That's what it does. It spews hatred. And it's there to incite and to inflame.